When you're building your personal brand, it actually takes a mindset that you may not have thought about. I think a lot of times we're looking for the strategies, which platforms we should be on, the content that we're talking about, and all of that matters, but you're not going to be able to show up in the right way if you're constantly thinking that you have to be professional, you've got to filter yourself, and you've got to try and be somebody that you're potentially not. So today I want to take you through something I'm calling stepping into your era. And I'm going to share with you 6 mindset shifts that are going to help you to build the kind of personal brand that helps you show up as your best self and attract the types of clients and opportunities that you really want. So let's dive in. So what does it look like when you're building your personal brand, stepping into your era? Now, if you follow me on socials or you're on my email list, then you'll know that my word for this year is unfiltered. And in all honesty, I don't think you can build a personal brand or stand out or be memorable if you're saying what everybody else is saying. So you have to work out what your unfiltered opinions, stories, and experiences are and share those. And when I'm working with clients, there's a number of things that we go through. Number one, you really want to nail your brand story. So how did you get here? Why are you doing what you're doing? What was the catalyst or the moment that made you think, I need to now go into doing this thing that you're doing now? And really thinking about what that story is, writing it out, building it, looking at all of the pivotal moments throughout your story. And you can start from when you were in childhood through to school. You know, who were you in those moments? When you were working, starting your business, whatever has happened for you, your story matters. And being able to really unfilter yourself and share those moments, and they might be amazing times, they might be really hard times, but everybody's got a story. And when you start to really look at what your story is, you can start to share that with your audience. And that is definitely something that when I think about people that I love and that I follow, I know all of their stories. I know what it is that they talk about. And I just don't think that this is something that we talk about enough or that we think about enough. Like, that story is going to be a key element of your personal brand. And so often, because I work with a lot of business owners who are experts in what they do. They've either been accountants for 15, 20 years, or they've been leadership coaches, or they've been consultants or coaches in other elements. They really know their stuff. And often when we're experts in what we do, we feel like we have to show up a certain way, which is where the filtering comes from. Am I allowed to say it in that way? Is that professional enough? And the one thing I really want you to think about is, instead of thinking about, is this professional? I want you to ask yourself, is this positioning me in the best way? Is this positioning me in the way that I want? So brand positioning over professional appearance is what we want to be aiming for. Now, one thing that I've done is that I've created a custom GPT that you can grab. There's a link below. It is called my Spicy Opinions GPT, and it will help you to really start looking at what you want to say, but you're not saying. It's answering the question of, what is it that you see your clients doing all the time and you want to tell them this thing, but you're not saying it because you're too scared to say it, or you haven't found a polite way of saying it or a professional way of saying it. And so grab the GPT. That's really going to help you to get unfiltered and start showing up as your spicy self. Because at the end of the day, we cannot stand out if we sound like everybody else, if we look like everybody else, if we're doing what everybody else is doing. You have to share your story, show up in a way that works for you, in an unfiltered way. And I mean that in not just what you say, but how you act, your mannerisms, your sense of humor, your style. All of those things contribute to your personal brand. It's what makes you memorable. If we all looked and sounded the same, it would be very boring. So really ask yourself, if I was being totally unfiltered, what would I be like? Would you be swearing in your brand? Would you be wearing bolder colors? Would you be recording content from a different location? What would you be doing if you were really showing up as yourself? So that is the first that we are embracing. Secondly, you have got to become unapologetic. As women and men, if you're watching this, we always feel like we have to think about everybody else around us. And I'm not saying that we don't, but we also need to be unapologetic about going after the things that we want. Now, I am actually on my 5 rejections quest. So 5 rejections a week. I had Liz Mosley, who is a brand designer from the UK, on the Brand Builders Lab podcast at the end of last year. She had a goal of doing 100 rejections. And the premise of it is that you go after the rejections, and more often than not, you're getting the opportunities and you're getting the yes, because so often we don't ask for what we want. And I think this is such a core element of being unapologetic, is that I'm not going to hold myself back. I'm actually going to ask for the things that I want. As I say all the time, my mother brought me up and said, if you don't ask, you don't get. And at the end of the day, a no doesn't have to mean anything. You get to decide what a no means for you, what that story is for you. So think about, if I was being completely unapologetic, if I was being completely unfiltered, if I was going after the things that I want, what would I go after? So for example, I am going after more podcast guest episodes. So being a guest on somebody else's podcast. I am also asking people that I want to be on my podcast, because I don't take podcast pictures. I ask people who I think are great at what they do. And so far, 100% yeses this year for the people that I've asked. Also, I want to speak more. So I'm hosting my own events where I'm speaking, but then I'm also pitching myself for other speaking gigs. If I get a yes, amazing. If I get a no, so what? Get on to the next thing. I am unapologetically going after the things that I want, and I want you to embrace that as well, and really ask yourself, what is it that I want and what do I want to go after? And when I get a yes, amazing. When I get a no, I get to decide what that means for me and what story I'm embracing. Your next is being unrealistic. Now, you'd have to be living under a rock if you haven't heard the word being delulu. Being delusional about what you can do, have, achieve. It's about doing things that others might think is unrealistic, but realistic just keeps you in a box with limits. And we're not doing that anymore. We're here to think bigger. So once again, what is it that you might have thought before now is unrealistic? Could it be making multiple 6 figures, making 7 figures, speaking on a stage in front of 3,000 people, getting paid to travel and do the things that you want, getting brand deals, attracting incredible clients, selling out your programs? Like, what is it that you're like, oh, I just don't think that I could do that? What would an unrealistic, the old you terms, look like? Really start to think about, what if that was possible for me? What if I just did the things that I thought would help me achieve those goals? And who knows, like, if I aim for something really big, even if I don't hit it, I'm going to get further than if I wasn't going after it at all. So I want you to start to think about how you're being unrealistic in the things that you're going after, and the kind of opportunities, the kind of incredible opportunities that could create for you. Next is unbothered. I want you to imagine being totally unbothered by what other people think of what you do and say. That would feel like freedom, wouldn't it? Imagine you post the content, you increase the prices, you sell, you create, and you're not bothered by other people's opinions. I actually think this is one of the biggest things, is that we don't want to look silly when we're learning a new skill, which could be content creation. And so we just don't do it because we're worried about what people are going to say, what they're going to think. We don't tell people the really amazing things that we want in our lives. We don't want to claim it because they would think that we're being unrealistic, that we're going after things that are too big. But I just really want you to embrace the fact that other people's opinions are not paying your bills. Other people's opinions are not helping you show up on YouTube or Instagram or wherever it is that you want to show up and create. Other people's opinions are not helping you to write the book that you want to write, to speak on the stage that you want to speak on. So all of these go together, is that when you're being unfiltered, when you're being unapologetic, when you're being unrealistic, when you're being unbothered, all of these things mean that you can really embrace what it is that you want and build the personal brand that you want, build the business that you want, create the opportunities that you want in a zone of testing and trying and creating and building and being you and having fun and going for the things that you want. How incredible does that feel when you're able to do that and not care about other people's opinions? And we want to be uncommon. Every single personal brand that you think of, that you remember, that you recall, that kind of lives in your head rent free. Right now, different is better than better. So when you show up fully as yourself, without the filters, unapologetic, unbothered, you'll be different from everybody else trying to fit in, trying to do what everybody else is doing. And that's your edge. When we stop performing, we start to produce from a powerful place. One thing I want you to really think about here as well is that when you are looking to be different, you're going to be testing and trying new things. It's going to feel uncomfortable. And people are going to see you trying hard. And I had Zara Jarvis, who now working for Diary of a CEO, and she was talking about being seen as a try-hard and how when you were a kid, that was such a negative thing. But now when we're adults, like we want to be try-hards. We want to be people that try to get better at what we do, that we try to go after the things that we want. And so really thinking about, if I want to be different, I'm going to need to try harder to learn the skills that I need to learn in order to communicate my message. How am I going to be uncommon? When I see people doing one thing, how do I do something different? That feels very you. Instead of being professional, how do I show up and position myself in an uncommon way? And I think that's something that I'm really looking at this year as well, is like, how do I embrace all of my uns to be so uncommon that people know exactly who I am and how I work and what I talk about. There are certain people online right now where they've got very unique messages. So if somebody was to say, you know that girl on Instagram who talks about frugal chic, it's about investing. She's 25 years old and she wants to get to $1 million net worth by the time she's 30. Now, you may or may not know her name, but a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, I know exactly who you're speaking about. And so I want you to really think about, what is it that you're claiming that is uncommon? Is there a phrase that you can use? Is there something that you really want to be known for? For me right now, I am all about embracing your un-era, which are all the things that we're talking about today. I'm running an event on being unfiltered. I'm going to be speaking on this particular topic. I'm speaking about it here on YouTube and the podcast. I'm going to be writing about it. It is something that I am claiming. It is something that I really want to be known for. And so then it's about continuing to talk about it again and again so that you can claim that space. So I want you to think about what yours could be. It could be an idea that you come up with. It could be something to do with you and your personal brand, your story. So start to get creative when it comes to how you position yourself in an uncommon way. This one is creating more than you consume. We hear it all the time. Consuming less, being unabsorbed by everybody else and focused on your community, your clients, and the problem that you solve. And I think that this is the biggest blocks to creativity, is that when we constantly look at what everybody else is doing, it can be really overwhelming. We can't figure out what our sense of style is, what our uncommon perspective is, the way that we want to position our brand, because our brain is crammed with everybody else's content. And so I really want you to ask yourself, if you are being unabsorbed by other people's content, by other people's doing things, what would it be that you would do? How would you do it? How would it look? And is being absorbed in other people's content stopping you from showing up and creating, which I think is a really big problem that a lot of people face. So really think about what that looks like for you and how you can start to intentionally create from a place of not being absorbed in other people's content, because that will absolutely be something that stops you from showing up and creating. And play with different ways that work for you as well. One of the things that I was talking to my Amplify clients about was really looking at different ways that people create and then finding a way that feels in flow for them. Because once you find a way that feels in flow for you, it's just going to feel so much easier, and you'll find your way, your uncommon way, because you're no longer absorbed by everybody else. You've got your style, your flow, your way of communicating what you have. So if you are wanting to build a personal brand in 2026, build a business, because they just go hand in hand, I really want you to think about how you are embracing your un-era so that you can uniquely show up as you and share your message in an uncommon unapologetic, unfiltered way. Don't forget to grab the Spicy Opinions GPT. I think it's amazing. My clients have given me such incredible feedback on it that it's really helped them to think differently about the way that they're sharing their message. So make sure that you grab that. And if you're in Melbourne and you want to check out the Unfiltered event or any other events that we're running, then make sure you DM me on Instagram at Suze Chadwick, the word event, and I'll send you the details for that. If you're wanting to learn more about how to build your personal brand and create great messaging that you can create a hierarchy for, then make sure you watch this next video and dive straight in.